everyone. I hope you guys are having a great night. Well, this will be episode 1. I'm sorry it's been a little bit since I've been able to record. We've had family in town. So I need to back up a little bit and start back over when I was 18 actually. When I was 18, I was pregnant. I'm from a very, very small town where we really didn't go to doctors. There wasn't very many doctors in town. And I was pregnant. A couple of home pregnancy tests said I was pregnant. And then I had a doctor's appointment to go into a town, like an hour away town to see the doctor. And so that would have been my first real GYN checkup. And so I go in and I actually lost my baby at the doctor's office. So I was told I needed to have a DNC. I didn't have insurance at the time. And I was young and had no idea of obviously how things worked or how the importance was or any of those things, nor was that explained to me. So we just went home and I continued to bleed terribly for days and weeks, and a few times so bad I had to go to the ER, but the ERs didn't work the same as they do today either. Even though I was bleeding that bad, they just kind of stabilize you and send you on your way and tell you, hey, you need to have a DNC. And so I didn't do it. I just kept thinking it'll be okay. I don't have the money. All I can do is save for one. And then, after a couple of trips to the ER, I was warned that do not get pregnant without having a DNC. Well, I didn't have a DNC. So about 19 and a half, I got pregnant. And that was the first time they actually did do my full GYN workup, because the other doctor didn't ever see me that day because I lost the baby. When I went to the bathroom, the nurses looked and said, oh yeah, she had a miscarriage, and they sent me on my way. Which I don't understand because I did pay for my visit. But anyway, that was many years ago. So this time, they're very concerned. They do my checkup, find out that I have pre-cervical cancer, to the point that they were quite concerned that I couldn't carry this child safely for me or him. Well, we didn't know it was him yet, obviously. That I couldn't carry him safely because obviously the tissue would keep growing and they didn't know what stage it would hit by then. And I needed to get my cervix out. But I chose to continue to carry my child because this doctor did explain to me that if I didn't have, if they did the medical, I think it was called a medical abortion, if I'm not mistaken. If they did that and took my cervix out, the only way I could have a chance of having another child was to be on bed rest with your cervix closed shut and your legs propped up for the whole time and what have you. And so I was like, I'm not going to be doing that. So I was going to try to carry this baby. Plus, I didn't really believe in abortions. Today, I feel a little different about it. I'm not a fan of them, but I think some people might need one versus beating their child to death or killing it. So I decided, to continue the pregnancy. So they did some genetic testing because on both sides of the family, there was some issues that could have, my child could have. My sister had spina bifida and stuff. So we did the genetic testing and it seemed that the baby was okay. So again, I continued to want to carry the child. And so when they had continued to do colon biopsies and different things to watch how I was progressing, obviously. And so when I was 5 months pregnant, I had dilated to a 3. And they were like, he was too little to have. We need to stop it. So of course they took, had me in the hospital, stopped it, started giving me the pills. Had to change the pills a few times because they weren't working. And so I was in and out of the hospital majority of the pregnancy. Then I got pneumonia. So then finally they said, we're going to have to let you just have this baby because there's just too many things going wrong. And then the little stinker didn't want to come. so so they sent me back home and said, okay, well, if anything happens again, we're just going to go ahead and let you have him. So he was a month early. I ended up, my water broke. So I ended up having him for that. This is just a fun fact that I think is a little hilarious. The doctor had came in at 9:30 at night and said, well, you're only 2 of 5. It's going to be 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning before your baby's born. And he was born at 10:59 p.m. So he was born 29 minutes later, and the doctor, the nurses are telling me, no, you're not, he's not coming. I said, I'm telling you, he's coming out. They're like, no, he's not. The doctor just checked you. There's no way. And the lady the nurse lifts the sheet, and sure enough, his head's coming out. So I was like, yeah, this baby's had an idea of his own the whole time. I had a few complications after I had him. So 4 weeks to the day after he was born, did a surgery and took out my cervix, or took out majority of my cervix. 3 months after that, they had to take out the rest of my cervix. After that, I continued to have terrible pain, what are they called? Pap smears, things like that. So they thought I had endometriosis. So they did a laparoscopy, and come to find out I had one of the worst cases of endometriosis seen at the time. Now, this was back in 1991. My case was so unique that even some of the universities wanted to study my case because it had grew on places that it didn't typically grow. I did Lupron injections. If you ever done those, my God, you know how brutal. When they inject you with that to try to put you through menopause, and it all hits you at one time when you have a small child. It was just brutal. And my relationship with my child's father was not going very well, and we split up when he was a year old. And so I was doing the single parent thing with a little help from my mom. She was working, and I was trying to work, and it was quite a nightmare. And so I continued to have terrible female problems that was not really understood. Then I got worked up by GIs, I got worked up by surgeons, just different doctors not understanding what in the world is happening with me. And so they continued to do laparoscopies to see that my scar tissue was growing so bad that it continued to trap my bowels and bladder off. And so they would have to go in and take that down, scrape out a little more endometriosis. The state I lived in at the time, you could only have a hysterectomy if it was medically necessary, meaning you were going to die, be 25, or have 3 children. I didn't qualify for any of those things because, as bad as it was, that I could not stop bleeding. And I bled for I think it was 5 straight years, to the point of, well, I won't get into that, it's a little graphic, but it was a lot of blood. And so when I turned 25, I went in the hospital and I had a hysterectomy. They had to do full cut from pelvic to pelvic, and just like open me as wide as they could to scrape out all of my insides, because I had so much scar tissue, so much endometriosis, that it was hours long, days long in the hospital. It was a pretty major surgery. They tried to save my ovaries at that time because I was only 25. I think it was about 8 months, maybe 9 months later, they had to go back in and take my ovaries out because the pain was still had me doubled over. Nothing made sense. Here we go again. I'm full of scar tissue. My ovaries are just trapped to the walls. There's no saving these guys. So they took my ovaries out. We continued to have appointment after appointment with confusion, really, I guess you could say. The doctor had never seen anything like this. His staff was fantastic. I mean, I was on a first name basis with everybody in there at this point because I was there so much, and his main nurse and I had became close, and she would even call and check on me. And she had told me that this doctor was he just didn't know what else to do for me. Like, he felt terrible because it just didn't make sense, and he didn't know what else to do for me. So she said, look, I've been seeing this guy. He's great. He's a little younger. He's a little more advanced. Maybe you should just give him a try. Call over there and tell them I sent you. Go over, see if he can possibly help you. So I give him a call the next day. They got me right in. I go in. He's looking at my records and what have you, and he's a little mystified over this as well. And so he said, do you mind if I go in and take a look? And I said, no, obviously you can't help me if you can't see what's going on. So he goes in. Of course, he had done CTs and ultrasounds and all the fancy things as well. But we go in, do a laparoscopy. Yep, I'm in the hospital yet again because they don't know where the pain is coming from, why I'm having complications. So, of course, my insides were all trapped to the walls. And so he brings them all down and sends me to some surgeons, sends me to GIs, do all these tests, do all these fancy things again. Let's see if anybody can guess what's wrong with her. Meanwhile, again, I'm trying to be a single mother and work. A couple of surgeons, one was all gun ho. Let's just go in and take out let's just go take your colon out. Then it can't get trapped. And then, and I'm like, dude, are you for real? Like, he was so nonchalant about it that it scared me. Like, he was a happy cutter. I went to another surgeon and he said, let's just wait it out and watch it. And he said, a little TMI here, but if you're watching on the medical aspect, you might need to know this. I could go 10 days and not have a bowel movement. So that was quite concerning for everybody because nothing would make me go. He said, does it bother you that you do that? And I said, well, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but it's nothing that I'm not used to at this point. This has been happening for years. So he said, well, let's just keep watching it instead of you having such a major surgery at a young age. And I said, it sounds good to me. We'll do so. And so that's what we did. And, as I've said many times, I was still working and being a single mother. At this point, my son's like 6.5. I had a few doctors that told me that I needed to explain to my child what was going on, showing my scars. At this point, I had probably 25 surgeries, I'm sure. So I'm about 26 years old at this point with about 25 or so surgeries. And they wanted me to explain to him like why I'd be fine one minute and laying on the floor the next, because I'd have these weird pains that just made me drop to my knees. I thought it was a lot, but they were like, he's old enough to understand, and he needs to know like and how to call for help if something happens. All these things that, I guess he really did need to know. You're just trying to protect your child, obviously. And anybody that's listening in today's world, teach your child 911. Teach your child the very importance of getting you help if you're sick, especially if you're a single mother or you're staying at home with your child. Make sure that your child does know how to get you help, because there's many times, I'm 54 now, as I've said, and I'm home alone, and I have my phone in my hand at all times because I fall. I have to call my husband at work and say, you need to get home now. I need help. Or I'm throwing up. I need help. So you need to have a plan. This is the reason I want to do this channel. I know right now it's a little uncomfortable to talk about some of these things that I haven't talked about in years, but I want to show you guys eventually when I build a following, if I do. And I want to show you guys this book that I made and how to help yourself, how to help doctors. You would be surprised at how many doctors look at my book and say, holy crap, like, this is great. Like, what made you think to do something like this? And I said, well, I worked for a group of GIs, and I learned a lot of stuff in the behind the scenes things that I can help myself. I do a lot of my own paperwork. I do a lot of stuff. That way I know where it's at. I think we'll leave this story there tonight for episode 1, because it obviously keeps going and keeps going, and it gets a whole lot wilder, because I've seen doctors, as you've seen on one of my titles. I've had doctors with no license. I've went to doctor's appointments with a big old pink sheet on the door where the feds has came in and closed them down and stole and had to take our records for proof, for subpoenas and all this stuff. Like, I have been there, done that. I have lots of proof of it. You guys can Google it. I'm not making this up. I have no reason to make this up. It's funny and not funny at the same time. You do not know who to trust if you do not check that your doctor has a license, that you do not do your due diligence on you read between the lines with the reviews, because people may not like a doctor and give them a 1 star because the person that answered the phone was ugly to them. That doesn't have anything to do with the doctor. I have doctors that I don't like their staff. I have staff I love and doctors I don't love. But I see the best of the best doctors, but I might not necessarily like their bedside manner, but I know that I'm going to get the best care that I'm going to get. So you kind of have to balance it out at the end of the day, right? So I hope you guys have a great night, day, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully you made it to the end this time. I see not many made it to the end last time. I typically have a great sense of humor. This is a little hard for me it's a little dark humor for someone in my situation, but I think it's kind of, I have to have, I have to live comfortably and in my own skin and feel whatever it is I feel. And I think I just live day by day, and you have to be ready if it's your time, because you can back out your driveway and get hit by somebody and die in a car accident. You can die from your health. You can die from absolutely anything. There's only one person that tells us when we're going to go, and that's the man upstairs. So just live every day to the best of your ability and enjoy it. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will post sooner next time. I want to try to get to the point of doing a couple of a post a week, and doing some question and answering, and trying to help you guys with questions, or maybe you don't know how you do research and what have you. I want to be able to help you with these things. And I have a little storefront. I've been making journals. I built mine a little differently, but as I've learned over the years, now I've got this perfect journal for people with health conditions laid out you may be interested in. So I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great night.